me. So, welcome everyone. Everything seems good, so we will go ahead and get this party started. Where is everyone? They're all over the place, so thanks so much for joining me wherever you are, on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. And let's share my screen because I want to get into what you can do in what's up, Rocky? Creating some fun moon graphics because on this day 51 years ago, of course, we landed on the moon. So I think it's a good chance to kind of dive into and talk about kind of what you can do going from sort of flat to blowing your mind, dealing with 3D. So that is the plan. Christian, good to have you here. Drop the music a touch. Okay, sure. Oh man, it's already so low. Oh, I might end up turning it off. Don't know why it's a little loud, but either way, I will dive into this and just want to welcome you. And thank you so much for joining me. Let's drop that down. There we go. That's probably much better. Okay, so you can see right here, I'm going to dive into this, and I'm going to make sure everybody can see me. Feel free to say hello on the Illustrator page as well. It's good to have you here. And again, we're going to start in Illustrator, and then we're going to jump into Dimension. And we're going to kind of talk about sort of the different, honestly, like the different roadblocks you might hit as a designer that I know I actually hit when it comes to designing. So that is the plan. And yes, cool. Hopefully that works for you. Hello from Norway. Good to have you here. All right, cool. All right. Let's do this. And again, if you're joining me on the Illustrator page, feel free to say hello. I just want to make sure that it's coming through there. That'd be fantastic. Bert, are you joining me from the Illustrator page? All right, cool. Let's do this right now. Switching gears, by the way, you can see I actually have this image, and I'm in Photoshop now. I just kind of point out you could actually download assets. You could literally search. What I'm actually going to need is a moon texture. So you literally search for moon texture, and you have these from NASA. An actual picture of the moon. I love this flat map of the moon's Earth texture, the moon's texture, right? That you could go ahead and download in all these amazing formats. I downloaded about the 3.2 megabit version, right, that we could bring into Illustrator. But I could also take this and drop it into, say, for instance, my library as well, just by taking that and dropping it in. Okay, so that's what I have here. Just have this text. Now I kind of want to talk about like what I would do if I was creating some moon graphics or something moon themed, which I've actually have done before. So I think in here, what I want to do is I actually want to make these circles look like, these O's look like perfect circles. So we do that by using a variable concept font. So I use Acumen variable concept font a lot because it's kind of nondescript, doesn't have a lot of character to it, which means I get to add the character to it, which is awesome. So that is the plan. Oh man, that is the plan today. Cool. All right. All right. Let's kind of take a look at this right over here. Clicking right here. And I can change the width, as we can see, so we can go from something that's more of an oval to something that's more of a circle, like we see right there, okay? Notice how I was able to adjust the width, but since I want this font to be really large, I'm going to make it thinner so it's just like a little bit more elegant. So that's what I'm going to do right there, as you can see. So cool. All right. Cool. All right, so let's kind of take this to the next level because I have this texture back here. I'm going to change this text to black really fast. So change that to black like so. I can take this background image that I downloaded from the internet and we can make a circle, just like that. And let's just go ahead and hide that text and zoom out. We can make this a mask. So a lot of people will do this. They're like, oh, let's just take that. And this is the simplest thing to do, is make this a clipping mask, right? Turn that on like so, shrink that down, right? And we can put that on top of, say, that O in this case, right? And the thing about this is like flat. This really isn't doing us any favors. It's not like that great, to be honest with you. Good to have you here, Bert. That's one way to execute this. Another thing you could do is you can actually take a circle, zoop, like so, and let's just make the color, the fill white. We're just going to give it a stroke of gray, and we're going to do a half circle like so. We take this half circle, go into Effect, 3D, and we could go ahead and revolve right here. So we could go ahead and revolve like so. It revolves it out around the left edge, but we want to make this the right edge as it shows right here. So that's what I'm doing, changing that to the right edge. We have additional properties, so I can kind of put that over off to the side, the highlight. This might give us something a little bit more interesting, but what gets interesting here is we can go ahead and map that art. So we can go map art and go to maybe the outside. So watch as I click, 1 of 2, 2 of 2. We want to click and make sure this red is on the outside. And that says, hey, you know what? When I map a graphic, it's actually going to be on the outside. So let's scale to fit. There it is. We'll click OK. We'll click OK. And now we have basically a spherical version of the moon, which might look a little bit better than what we had here, right? So that, again, might work out better for me. Let's take this. Let's move this over. Let's take this one down, right? Scale it down. I can outline this, do whatever I need to with this. But I'd want to take things to the next level and ultimately use 3D. And I would probably want to use, actually, good old Dimension to do this, right? So again, just kind of check this out, right? This is all pretty straightforward, right? I'm kind of doing a pseudo 3D. We want more control over this, which is why I would use Dimension. All right. What's up, Steve? Good to have you here. Let's jump over to... gosh, I have so many windows going on. All right, cool. Let's close this. Let's launch Dimension right down here. Dimension allows us to composite 3D together, right? Just like we composite 2D in Photoshop, we'll composite 3D in Dimension. So here we are. Sure enough, we can grab a sphere. Boom, there it is. Guess what? That texture that we downloaded happens to be on my hard drive, or it could be in your library, right? We could take that texture. We can go to libraries, right? We can grab that texture and drop it on that model like so. So let's convert it. Hold on. Convert it to a standard model. Pop, drop it on, and then resize it. Another way of doing this, by the way, rather than applying it as a decal, right, you can go to this default material right over here, right? So that's actually where I want to put the moon texture, right on that base color. So replace that base color with this graphic, right, that I've downloaded. We can add roughness, which is pretty cool. Hey, just drag and drop, boom, right there, and we can add roughness to this particular file, and then you'll see kind of more of that as we start adding lighting. We'll get more of that depth, just so you know, right? So that's the idea, right? We can take a look at this. Everything looks good, right? We're actually dealing with 3D, which is wonderful. We can go to starter assets. Let's drop in some text. Here's my text. Let's go ahead and title it M. Hold on, M. Moon. There we are. We can increase the size or decrease the size of the moon. Position it into place. Zoop, zoop, like that. Right. Let's center everything into position and rotate this around. So this is going to be even more unique and just going to be a better representation of what I'm trying to do. Let's change this text like we know we want to. I don't know, just for anything, just kind of simple. I'm going to keep this like as simple as possible. Maybe even simpler than this. Let's see what we got for our text right in here. And by the way, you can favorite text. I'm not gonna, I don't have any of them favored just yet. But what's cool, I like how I can actually twirl down into each one of these to find a font that might work. Okay, so that's all I'm doing. Let me find something. Din alternate, maybe? Ooh, that's actually kind of cool, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's kind of where I'd work next, is trying to get the correct text for this project. Something really simple like so. Let's do a redo. There we are. Let's put another space in there. There we are. Boom, there we have it. Let's again take this to the next level, because I could add more lighting to this. I could render this out. I can add any sort of texture I want to this. In fact, what I want to do, by the way, I went ahead and made a moon. Let's grab a cool background. Let's drop a cool background in here, right? Just drag and drop. There it is, and we can adjust the lighting for it as well. So I'll go into my starter assets. We'll go to the lights, and guess what? There is a sun that you could use, right? So we could add this sun like so, and we could adjust the rotation of the sun. We see it rotating right now. I typically like the more light sources, the better. So I'll oftentimes do like a 3-point light. So we can click and add that. That added a fill, a key, and then a backlight as well. And you can kind of determine what's what by turning them off. So as I turn these off, you start to see a difference, right? And ultimately, and let's just turn off that rendering, here's that backlight, you know, that we can give this kind of more of a gold tint for that backlight to make it look like the sun's coming from behind it, right? We have this key light. Let's turn it back on. Come on, key light. There you are. See that key light? Look at it. Makes everything yellow, right? I have it sampled right there. I actually want to get more into the gold, like so. And then we can play with the rotation. So I actually want to rotate that around and take the height down as well. So that's what I'm doing in this case. And notice how I can kind of position this like any way I want, as I'm doing right now. Notice how these have the shadows, right? I might not want those shadows. Chances are you don't. Well, right over here, we can get rid of the ground plane. Clicking right there, get rid of the ground plane. And now we have something that looks a little better, if you ask me, right? Cool. Let me show you something else, Steve, if I can. And that is the fact that you can actually go out to Adobe Stock and search for moon, because this is what I'll do sometimes. If it's a really generic item, I'm thinking, you know what, maybe there's a free version. And you would be right over here. Here we go. Here's our Earth Moon. And guess what? It is free, right? So you can see it's free right here. We can save it to our library. It's saving to Adobe Live. I already have it saved a couple times, but there's free content available out there from Adobe Stock that you can always kind of check on, especially if it's like a generic item. By the way, since we're celebrating the moon landing happening 51 years ago today, because guess what? Apollo 11 landed. A-P-O-L-L-O. Let's search for that. There it is. There's even the Apollo lunar lander, right, that we can go ahead and download as well. So let's just search for Apollo. A-P-O-L-L-O. There it is. Take that. Kind of drop that into place. And here's our fun lunar lander. Let's give it a second to load in. It happens to be a pretty large file. We'll wait for it in a second. There it is. Look at how massive it is. Sometimes I'll just lock it. If I know it's pretty large, I'll lock it right over here and I'll say, hey, you know what? Take this down 50% or 0.5, right? Or 0.5. 3 even better, right? And I can even drag on these numbers as well. So that's what I do in this case, kind of take that down. I didn't realize everything was so small, but there's our lovely lunar lander. And maybe in this case, I want to take these 2 items up, and I can always select those 2 items, scale those up like so, fit everything into view, right? You get the idea. Let's reposition some of this. There we go. Rotate it. Like that. You get the idea. Again, just doing something kind of fun. I'd probably position it actually kind of behind everything. Maybe it should be larger. But what's nice is I could play with this like all day long to kind of get this to look right. Maybe it's kind of back there because I don't know. I don't know. Still working on it. Hopefully you guys get the idea. From this point, I would render it out right over here, saving the file as moon. Right. Number 2. And rendering it out, and there you go. There you have it. Kind of from dimension, kind of how I would work typically, starting in good old Illustrator, right? Showing you kind of what you get. You get this very flat look, and honestly taking things to the next level when it comes to creating something in dimension, as you can see. At the end of the day, you're going to get a PSD out of here. It's pretty cool. And can you change the color of the font? Of course you can, Bert. Good question. Yeah, I'm all for that. Right now, honestly, I kind of wanted to keep it simple. You can get a little carried away, just like with any design. And here I'm just going very simply. I don't know. Honestly, Dan, to answer your question about will you eventually be able to animate in dimension, you know, I'm sure that's something that we're looking at. But I can't say either way. I know that sucks. You don't really want to hear that. But honestly, it's kind of what people want, is what we will build, is kind of what it comes down to. So that's the short of it, right? Yes, that's right. The only natural satellite orbiting the Earth, the moon. There you have the render. Thanks for hanging out with me. That's all I got for you guys today. Feel free. Can you build your own PSD mock-ups in Dimension? Chris, kind of what you're doing is you're building a PSD mock-up. Like, I'm not sure if I follow, but like what I just rendered is a PSD. So I can see these assets like right here, right? So I could take this, play with this like all I want. It's all kind of separated out. And then we have these different selection layers that we can work with as well. So hopefully you can. Hopefully I'm answering your question correctly. But you are creating PSDs from Dimension. So thanks everybody. That's all I got for you. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Remember, call your mom, be kind to one another, wash your hands, and drink lots of water.